Who is your neighbor? People constantly ask Jesus to teach them how to fulfill God's law. Each person had different motives that drove them to Jesus with questions. Jesus often encouraged believers to make more of themselves, trust in God, and go deeper, longer, and further in relationships with others. In Luke 10, Jesus invited his followers to obey God by following the example of their neighbor who obeyed God. Jesus responded to a question with an illustration of radical love. The star of his story was a despised cousin to Israel, a Samaritan who obeyed God's law. Jesus instructed the Israelite teacher of the law to go and do likewise. We too received this example and call to practice. We too received this example and call to practice radical love. Luke 10:27, he answered, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself." So who is your neighbor, is the question for this session. When I look back over my life, I may have not worded it this way, but I now consider, who was my neighbor? If we are talking about those who helped in time of need and went out of their way to show mercy and care when many others kept going, it makes me think of earlier days in my life. The talk about insider and outsiders in this session made me a bit uncomfortable. I am a person who went to 8 different schools just to get to the 8th grade. My dad moved a lot with his job. So being an outsider is familiar for me. Every year, a new school. We didn't always move in the beginning of the school year. So up until about the age of 13, 14, there were always new kids, new classrooms, new playgrounds, new neighbors, new teachers, new rules, new challenges, and maybe new friends. And then it was time to do it again because we moved. And to add a bit of humor to the story, when we finally settled down and Dad retired from his job, we moved into a community where we were the first Blacks, the first African-American family, people of color, to ever move into that community. Talk about wondering who your neighbor is being a question. God does have a sense of humor, but whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Even though things might have been tough from time to time, I believe that my neighbors were all those children who came to school after me that became my friends. My neighbors were all those children who had the courage to sit with me in the cafeteria or class or talk to me to get to know me. I think they were my neighbors, even though we didn't stay in that area very long. The thing that makes them neighbors is not only the courage to move in closer and to get to know me and create a friendship, was the mercy they showed to all the new children that came to the school. That is a part of what I think God is talking about when he asks us to love our neighbor as ourselves. These young children knew early that they didn't enjoy being the new kid. So they, in turn, became vulnerable and tried to be a good Samaritan towards me and many others. They were the Good Samaritan to reach out and go above and beyond to build relationships. Even if it didn't work out, they were still the Good Samaritan. In some cases, I was the Good Samaritan also. It really depends on the effort that you're willing to put into building up neighbors. In my mind, this neighbor thing was a little bit of a mission field for me. If you started school after me, then you were in my sights to be a friend, or at least until one of us had to move. I believe that even though we were all passing through, we were each other's neighbors for however long we had. A pastor friend of mine talks about being a peacekeeper. She says that oftentimes she gets in the middle of arguments in the streets in her neighborhood. I mean, she doesn't physically put her body between arguing people, but she does keep a comfortable distance. And she says that she starts her conversation with people in the disagreement by saying, "Hello, my name is Angel." It's not her real name. And I am a peacekeeper. Is there any way that I might be able to help here? Sometimes people say, you can mind your own business, but sometimes people will say yes and tell you everything, whether you're ready to hear it or not. Often people just need someone to listen to their story. They just need someone to help make a way out of their situation that they can't seem to do together. Often God calls us to going the extra mile. Surely my friend could keep going when she sees people in distress, but they are her neighbors. She has been called to be a peacekeeper. She is a Good Samaritan and goes the extra mile regularly. I think that is what God is talking about in this session, the stretch, to have compassion for others and to go the extra mile for relationships to build communities. In doing this and putting yourself out there, you are loving God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, because it takes great courage to keep going out there and trying to build relationships or peacekeeping again and again. Did the Good Samaritan know the man on the side of the road? Was he a friend or a stranger? Or had he seen him at the same watering well with their donkeys? The story does not go into that detail, but what the story does say is that he was good because he helped someone in need. The story does go into detail of the level of help the Good Samaritan gave. He went above and beyond. That Samaritan didn't care what ethnic identity the man identified himself. That Samaritan didn't care the ethnic identity that that man identified himself as or what were his preferred pronouns. He didn't care about anything other than the man had been robbed and hurt and that he needed help. The Good Samaritan acted out of character in those times. He was not a Jew. Let us leave the politics aside. Let us serve our hurting brothers and sisters community by community, neighbor to neighbor, human to human. Let us all let God sort out the difference in faith and religion. That is all that God is asking of us. God is asking that we help all people who need help in the ways that we can help them. Jesus is the connection to the deeper stuff that people will need help with. We show them the way to Him with love. One plants, one waters, and one makes us grow. Where should you be in the process? How do you show your love for God to people? My name is Jaye Lindo, pastor of Seven Ways Home Fellowship, spiritual companion with Integer Network, and leadership development associate with the Mosaic Mennonite Conference. I love you, but God loves you more. Go in peace. Thank you for listening.